Good afternoon. My name is Jose Arranjo. I'm the president and member of the subcommittee for the ballot layout. I have with me Commissioner Michelle, and I also have Commissioner Ronald Castorina. Sorry. And we're joined by Tom Sadie and John Nordis to start this subcommittee meeting. Today is October 3rd, 2014. All right, let's start. Sorry. Go ahead.
Commissioners, I have you here today, and I appreciate you coming for this emergency meeting to show you sample ballot layouts for each borough for the 2014 general election. I hand some to Commissioner Castorina now. What we were able to come up with, what John and his department was able to come up with, was a 9-point font ballot.
Can you give them Staten Islands?
Oh, sure. For a 9-point font ballot for each borough. The paper size varies throughout the boroughs. Richmond County and Bronx County, because of the amount of offices that they have, we were lucky enough that they fit on 19-inch paper, 14-inch paper. New York County on 17-inch paper, and Kings and Queens counties, because mostly the amount of the Supreme Court justices that are up for election are on 19-inch paper. But we were able to create a 9-point font ballot. That's for all candidates and proposals that are, of course, located on the back of the ballot. This has shown a significant improvement. It's important to note that using the trilingual concept in Queens did have a pretty darn good effect on changing the font size for the ballot for this election.
Tommy, let me just ask you a question.
Sure.
You said this right now is 9-point font size.
That's correct.
Right? And that's across the board for every single ballot in the city.
That's correct.
What was it for the primary?
For the primary election, it was it 9 also?
It was also 9.
I believe it was 9 also for the
And in
primary.
the last election was less than 9.
No, the June election was 12, if I remember correctly, because there was only like 2 names on each ballot. In the general,
I meant last year. I meant
What?
so
Well,
last
precipitate-
last year it was 8. The last gubernatorial election it was 5. You want to go back to 2010 when the first?
No, the reason I'm asking is because I know the ballot layout committee started working on this issue since January of this year.
That's correct.
So I just want to compare it to last year.
What it was last year in the general election, what precipitated this was a 6-point font ballot for last year's
And
general
we
election.
changed the font to make it look a little
That's
better,
correct.
Right.
What font style is this?
This isn't the Arial narrow that was approved last year when we with the change of font. The only thing is with doing the trilingual and since only one of the third languages, as I say, appears on each ballot, not doing 5 languages on the same ballot, we're able to then bring it up to 9 instead of the 6. So we went from 6 of last year to 9 point on these ballots.
I'm just going to ask some general questions about this.
Sure.
These ballot layouts have been approved or reviewed by the particular language department?
Yes, they have.
So everything comports with, there's no issue,
Yes, they have.
right? And was that done by the state board or by our own translators?
Our own.
Our own translation.
Well, except for the props on the back, those translations were provided by the state. So the translations for the propositions on the back, that text is provided by the state.
And those were reviewed by our reps?
Reviewed by our staff, but originally provided by the state.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask that question.
Sure. I don't really have a whole lot more. I think it looks pretty good. I really do.
Well, let's talk about the fact that in the past, we are being consistent here. We're leaving columns 1 and 2, or A and B,
That's correct.
blank underneath,
That's correct.
right? And the wraparound is from left to right?
That's correct.
That's correct.
I know,
We're following basically the rules that we
All the
normally
tenets.
follow. There is nothing that we had to do to change those normal rules. Other than this is a 6-column ballot, where in the past we've done things like 9-column ballots or 8-column ballots. But we only have 10 candidates across, so we're able to have a 6 columns with the 4 independent bodies underneath, and still keep the Dem and Rep column clear.
Let me ask another question.
It's the long
I don't
run.
mean to take control of this. The part where it says proposals on the other side.
Yes,
Now, is there any way to make that darker without affecting other languages?
we
Or
can
will
bold
it
the
affect
English.
languages?
We can bold the English and Spanish, but we can't bold the Chinese and Korean or Bengali.
And it is possible that if we bold Chinese and Korean or Bengali, it may take on a different meaning. Is that
That's
correct?
Well, I don't think it changes the meaning. It's hard. You can't read it. The problem, like Chinese and Korean, those strokes, once they bold, they become a blob instead of individual stroke counts, because we use traditional Chinese, and then you can't read it, and it may be then interpreted, because they can't see the marks clearly, as a different meaning.
I was gonna say, I've heard it both ways. I've heard it that it does change the meaning because
Well,
you're
darker
changing,
line.
that's correct.
So, but is there a way to draw the voters' attention to the fact that there's proposals on the other side? Now, I am mindful that we do a publication in the newspaper informing them
Mhm.
that there are proposals on the other side. We actually list the proposals in the publication, but also at the poll site, we also put up posters informing them that
That's
there
right.
We
are
put
proposals
posters
on the
up
other
to
side.
show them that the proposal.
But just in case someone's asking about the ballot itself, is there anything that we can do as a board on these ballots to draw more attention to the fact that there's a proposal?
Because of the length of the ballot and the requirement, of course, to put all of the candidates and offices and trying to make the overall font size of the candidates for as large as possible, we thought it was in our best interests to stick to the box that's on the very top, that is the official ballot for the general election area. And of
Can you
course,
move
it's
it
in all
down
the
to another
language.
area? Looking at
Like
Queens,
there's
Queens
space.
has a big space in the bottom. Is
Well,
that
this-
possible?
Not every ballot can end there,
Yeah.
but we can
Right.
potentially put something along the bottom line if that's,
Could it,
Richmond and New York.
right, or could it be the same thing on the same premise? Can this box be bigger up here? And then all this gets moved down, so if you can't move the proposal,
if you look at the Manhattan ballot, we run into the problems, the Manhattan ballot has no space.
but what happens if you take the Manhattan ballot and move it up to the next size page? Then you might have the same consistency space up on top.
We may, but one of the problems is the more ballots that we push to 19, the longer it is for the print vendor to produce. One of the issues we have with printing is 17-inch ballots and less, they can do digital and they can do them quickly. We get them turned around and to the boroughs. 19-inch ballots have to be done offset, and it's a much longer process. So the more boroughs that go onto a 19-inch ballot, the longer it will take for the ballots to be delivered into the boroughs.
Well, right
giving
now,
us
Queens
the
has
less
a
time.
19, right?
Right, but
But
it
Manhattan,
becomes a problem of multiplying. If you give Queens 19 and then Brooklyn 19, and then you add Manhattan 19,
Well,
Manhattan
Yeah, but
19,
Manhattan will
That's
be-
at a less.
Manhattan would be at a 17, Brooklyn would stay at a 17.
no, but Brooklyn is at 19.
Oh, Brooklyn
Manhattan is
19.
already at 17. To make Manhattan bigger, to give you the more room that you're looking for to make that box bigger, you're making it a 19.
Oh,
that's-
Staten Island.
Now you're talking about, basically, those three counties now represent the majority of the ballots that need to be reduced.
I was gonna
And
say-
that will impact the amount of time it will take to get the ballots printed and then delivered, and then shorten the testing period that we would have.
Can you increase the font in one particular box just for those instructions? Is that possible? You have probably about a quarter of an inch worth of.
No, you see, one of the things that's deceiving is the way the software works. This first timing mark across the top of the ballot
Okay.
has to be white, otherwise the DS200 doesn't scan the ballot correctly. And then if they flip the ballot and put it in upside down, the first timing mark across the bottom also needs to stay white, so that if somebody puts the ballot in back, they put it in bottom first, it will scan. We ran into problems in the past where if we had text or any information in this first timing mark on either the top or the bottom, then the scanners won't recognize the ballot, and that leads to different problems. Then you have on election day people that can't get their ballot scanned. So even though it looks like we have this little bit of space here, and we have this little space here, it's unfortunate the software actually lets us put anything there because we can't. Even though the software allows it, the DS200s then won't read the ballot. There's also a problem actually the second timing mark down. If we put anything too thick, then the B&Ds can't read them, kind of thing.
I
So.
did wanna- Go ahead.
Yeah.
So we're really, unless we want to push back the production schedule and lessen the amount of time that they have for testing, we try not to make as many 19-inch ballots as we can. Now, obviously, if that's your decision is, we can do that, just realizing that it will impact the printing time and then obviously the testing time to get all the machines out and test.
Now, Richmond-
Most of the city is on a 19-inch ballot.
Richmond is the only one it's 11, right?
No, it's 14.
That's 14,
Richmond
Bronx
and
County is also.
Bronx are on 14-inch ballots.
So,
And they're off, those will be on the digital presses, and they'll turn those ballots around very quickly.
Well, John, just to clarify, I'm sorry, just on that, on one point, you said that the more we turn to 19,
Yeah.
the longer we may be delayed with our testing and ordering.
That's
Correct.
However, just looking at the Queens County ballot, it's not gonna change the actual font size, because it's still, to me, it looks a little bit, not small, but you have to look for it to see it.
Right.
So it's not gonna make that much of a difference, where it'll become more pronounced by going from 17 or 19 to 19, right? From 17 to
17 to 19 on,
That's correct.
on New York.
That's
New York.
correct. The one additional thing that I did want to point out, since this is the issue at hand, on the back of the ballot, we did, you'll see along with the proposals, put the proposal instruction below that. Because of this, because of the way this ballot is, we're going to be printing a separate sheet of the instructions in total. But
the
we,
privacy sleeve's gonna have.
the privacy sleeve, pardon me, our privacy sleeve will have it. But we did print the instruction to vote on a proposal directly above where the proposals are going to be, to assist,
Any
we
vote?
feel, assist any voter looking at it to make sure that they know they have that instruction directly on top of where they're about to vote for each
I
proposal.
have
to
a
leave it.
question / concern about the Bronx and Richmond with respect to the proposals.
Yep.
They're both on 14-inch ballots.
Yep.
And as a result, obviously, the proposals are in a font size that is somewhat smaller than.
No, the font is exactly the same 9. I think when these were reproduced, they were shrunk a little bit, and we're sorry about that. They weren't produced to their
So
full size.
This is not an accurate.
No, it's not an accurate comparison. These are not produced to their actual size.
Is
They're
it
all
nice
9.
and
They're all
accurate?
9-point font.
Yeah, I want to see an accurate.
Absolutely. I'll,
What don't you do for the meeting on Tuesday?
just-
Yeah, we can have. Yeah,
That's
Absolutely.
fine, yeah.
but in the reproduction to get them for today's meeting, these two did get shrunk.
Is this more reflective of?
That's the size of the-
Exactly how it's going
That
to look.
will be in Richmond and in the Bronx?
Yes.
So 19-inch
Okay.
ballots were printed on an actual ballot printer that we have here to get them produced, and they're
Yeah,
at the actual size.
That makes
These
If
were
you look
produced
at
on a
it-
copy machine, and they were a little smaller.
Yeah.
If
That
you
makes
look
sense.
at it, this is a 19, this is a there, so it looks like it fits right on
Right.
there
Yeah,
without the back is not gonna have as much real estate like this does.
Right.
On the, because it looks like
That
if you
solves
cut
that
this
issue. I
off.
appreciate- Thanks, John.
thank you.
Yeah, if you cut this off like that, that's your 14.
I think this is
No
14-inch paper, but they included the stub on it, but the ballot itself should have been
But when
14-inch
you,
paper.
right, when
Yeah,
you
so
copied
that
it, it fit the
It shows,
page,
yeah,
and they give you a
unfortunately.
That's
border.
exactly right.
Right?
And
Fit the
we got-
page.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what happened. And we got ourselves together for Friday, but on Tuesday, we will have real ballot samples.
That's
Right.
great.
We'll be able to
Okay.
send them over the weekend out to Phoenix, and they can produce us actual
You
ballots.
guys did a lot of great work in a very short period of time. We appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
What were the other issues that were raised at Tuesday's meeting? Do you remember?
I don't remember many other, most of those issues were addressed.
So wait, just to clarify that, you were saying, I know Mike Ryan and myself and Commissioner Michelle had instructed them to incorporate the suggestions of the commissioners on Tuesdays. So I'm assuming that these ballots that you present to us have already incorporated those requests from Tuesday.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly right.
Right. And so it has the font size that we approved last
That's right.
time.
Correct.
That was Commissioner Simone when he changed it to
That's-
something.
It's the font, the type of font, it's Arial Narrow, which was approved
Right, which was
earlier
approved on the last
year.
one.
That's exactly
We
right.
went up to 9.
It's up in,
Right, the only open one is the Brooklyn Commissioner wanted to say something bigger about the proposals on the other
Right,
side,
right.
but
This is as large as we can find the space for dealing with all, because what we try to do always is maximize candidate size. We're trying to maximize that 9.
well,
and-
some people
and
might
less-
say the proposals are more important than
No.
the can.
They could, but they're also 9-point on the back. So
Right,
they're
it's
all
not-
9.
But
It's the other outlier stuff
it-
that usually suffers from
I
it.
don't know that it makes much of a difference, but is it possible where it says proposals on the other side to bold that? I don't know if it.
but because of the languages.
What happens with bolding
Okay. So
is,
so in other words, we can't just bold English and
Right.
not.
Because
Right.
you're treating it
You're
different.
supposed to
You're
treat all
treating it
languages the
Then
same.
it's a disparate.
That's
Could you,
exactly
is there enough real estate, and I don't know if you can, just to put on the side proposals over?
On the
just
very bottom?
on the very bottom.
We could look
This
into
way, at
trying
least
to do
it's on
that.
the top, when the person gets to the bottom, they'll remember proposals
Or you need an
over.
arrow.
An arrow, a finger, you know.
We
See
can,
on
we
the
can,
side.
we can try to put
See on the
proposals
side, right.
over
You know,
on the
I'm
bottom.
just saying-
Yeah. no,
Because when you go here, most people don't even read the top. They're not gonna read it, they're gonna look down, vote for governor, because they're coming in for a reason.
Right.
Now they might come down, and then when they're coming down, and then it says right over here, there's a little hand over. and then at least it might help.
We can
Assist
we
with
can try to bring
voter
it to
and
the
turning it over.
Right.
We'll certainly try that, have it prepared for Tuesday,
Right.
and we'll do the best we can.
Yeah, because I think you might be able to squeeze it, because it's only, really Manhattan doesn't have the real estate, right?
Right, what we'll have to do is borrow some space off the top a little, and
Right,
Stretch that a little
I
bit,
think
and
that
then-
would help.
it won't be very big, but we can try to get
No,
a
but
line
at least,
on it.
but if it's got a finger and it's clear or something like, I don't know, over,
Okay, we can try to bring back the finger,
do you- I
we
mean,
still have the
is the-
finger.
yeah.
Since we're, since we're at this level, this is just terminology that we came up with ourselves on Wednesday, proposals on the other
With
side.
the executive director.
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, the staff did, including.
Is there a way to capitalize that?
I don't see any reason why
Yeah,
not.
it's not stopping us from capitalizing.
I don't see
It
any
just makes it
reason
more
why not.
pronounced.
Or should it say vote for
And even make it all
proposals on the other
caps.
side?
If
See,
you
to
think that-
me-
No, because a person might take the position, I don't want to vote.
I don't
for the
wanna
proposal.
vote
The concern was to make
You
it
don't wanna
as
direct them.
ambiguous as possible.
Right.
We want to direct them where they are, but not direct them
Right.
to
What
vote.
to do. Right.
So saying vote or see it was,
Although, at the same time, we always tell them to vote for one or two.
Right,
I mean, we have that instruction, but I understand.
yeah, I know, I think,
And the law requires us to do that on that
Right,
situation.
choose
More than
any,
one
whatever,
candidate.
right.
When there's more than one candidate, there is a vote for any
And that's
And
my
that's not-
statute.
That's correct.
that's what.
I think if, maybe it would just help if we could put something on the bottom.
I think that's a great suggestion.
Well, we know, like I said, we can look at, maybe we'll all cap the proposals,
All cap.
and then that'll make that stand out on the
Yeah.
top. We'll try to see if we can squeeze everything up a little bit to put another proposals over on the bottom, or maybe the same text, the proposal on the other side of the same text, with the finger at the bottom, so this way, yeah, if they don't read the top, maybe they'll read the bottom.
Right,
Obviously, but it's not gonna be huge, but we'll try to get it.
It's something we
just try
try.
to get it to the bottom.
We tried to.
But we always try to, like I said, avoid trying to increase how many boroughs go to 19 so that we can try to stay within the production schedule.
Just for the record, we've been joined by Dawn Senda, the deputy clerk director.
now we also, I know with the 19 now, 19 is done by the same company or it goes to a different company?
It's all the same company, it's just a different process.
All right.
It's either a digital press
We-
or offset press.
Right, now, one of the things that Queens had was that because they had the complicated ballot, they always received theirs kind of late.
And
Is that now reversed, that we're gonna try to get these out?
Since my plan, since all of the ballots are prepared to go once the layout is approved, is to do both the 19-inch ballots first, with Queens being the first because of the trilingual
Right,
question.
right, because we have, yeah, I know sometimes it's the opposite, so I just wanna,
we always try to get the larger, like I said, the 19-inch ballot counties out first, just to give them the most time to be able to produce those. But we're lucky in this case that we don't have anything outstanding.
Right.
No courts that
no,
get us.
no races or
There's
anything.
nothing in the court that is going to stop us from moving forward. Because in the past, I think occasionally we had issues where something was in court and we couldn't produce the ballots for Queens and we had to wait.
This is all great.
But obviously, yeah, Queens will be the first ballot we produce, then we'll work on things. Staten Island will be last, but because it's 14-inch, they'll print it very quickly. and get
Yeah,
it
because
around.
that's on a digital, right?
That's digital press, and they turn around the digital press stuff quickly, especially the 14-inch, they get produced very quickly. Just a note, Dawn, that the Staten Island, Bronx, and Manhattan ballots were shrunk when they were reproduced, and we apologize for that. The only ones that are true to size are the two 19-inch, the Brooklyn and the Queens ballots.
Because of the,
Sure.
because of the copy.
There
It was the, not to,
For the smaller borough?
not to.
It was more of,
It's more of a
method.
copy
Well, when they
versus,
copied it, the machine said shrink to size and somebody
Print
just
to,
pressed the
print to
button.
fit. Right,
Print to
right,
fit.
print to fit. So what we're going to do is on Tuesday, when we present this to the full board, have everything run on the ballot
We'll
printer.
get-
So
yeah,
they'll
we'll get Phoenix to do them up.
well, and we'll do it.
So this way, the actual ballot is produced by the actual vendor, so you
But
can
it
see them
is-
in real.
I have to tell you, New York looks really nice.
It is, Dawn, you know, I really do think it looks good. I'm sure you know, Dawn, but I'll reiterate, it's 9 point.
Yes.
It's a marked improvement over the 6 we had last year.
Too tall.
And that's because of the trilingual in Queens, allowed us to push out only 3 languages in Queens, gave us the ability to increase Queens to 9, which then let us carry to all the rest of the boroughs that same 9-point font. And we didn't have to cram everyone down to the 6 it probably would have taken to get all 5 languages on the Queens ballot.
Tom, on Tuesday's meeting, I'm only interacting with you because I know you were there. There was an issue that Steve Rickman had brought up that there was a commencement of a lawsuit by a candidate who had multiple parties. I don't see that in any of our ballots, so we're not affected by that at all, right?
We are complying with what currently is, what is currently being done, which is,
Right, he's
You're
in
giving him a
court.
separate box,
It's
correct.
as opposed to joining the box.
For the for governor,
state
Correct.
for,
legislature.
yeah, for governor and the state legislature, the candidates get as many parties as they have.
Correct.
For all other offices, they are to merge their box, they combine their boxes,
Right.
combine if they have more than one designating party and an independent party.
And we don't have that problem citywide.
Well, it's.
No, we don't, because we're
it's-
treating it differently.
We're treating it
We're treating him as a separate box as opposed to a slash, right? And that's to do with the interpretation of the 2 sections of the law, one as opposed to a voting machine and one as a
That's
a
correct.
ballot.
Paper ballots, right?
Paper ballot.
That's correct.
And we've consistently done, since the change of the law, treated it as a paper ballot.
That's correct.
I think it's since, well, actually, so in 2010, we did follow the old machine rules, just let it out. It wasn't until
Well, that's
after
when
the
we were
2010
first
election.
learning.
Right, it wasn't until after the 2010 election that
It was an implementation.
Right.
while a lot of stuff was going on and changing, and then, yeah, in 2011, the commissioners reached the decision of what applies now to these election day ballots and what doesn't, and that's when we then started following 7-106 and not 7-104. Or 7-116, which I think is the rotation, or is it 124?
Yeah,
I don't
that's
remember.
separate, it's 7
It's-
dash
it's-
106 that you're.
Yeah, it's either 116 or 124 is the other section on, it also says 4 voting machines, you rotate primary ballots, and both those 2 sections, and I'm sorry, I don't remember whether it was 116 or 124, which are the other one, that we no longer follow, because it says voting machines. Although I think there was pending legislation last year to change that titling, to make it say election day ballots, but it didn't go anywhere.
We didn't hear anything with the litigation, right?
No.
Nothing new.
We gotta move forward,
So
otherwise.
we're going, because there is no, right now, litigation is pending, but we're going with what's
We're complying with the
complying
state of
with
the law.
That's
the
correct.
law, we're complying with
That's
the law.
correct.
is
Current
there.
status of the law.
Until someone, orders us to do something different, we have to move forward, otherwise we're not gonna be able to pull off the election. We have to start getting these produced, we gotta get them out to the print vendor to print, we gotta get the machines tested and deployed out to the boroughs.
We've already
It's
sent out
already
military
October.
ballots, right?
Yes.
What font size?
7. They were 7. They were 7 point. But in the past, I just did the full spec. We have never. Our issues have always been with election day ballots.
No, I understand.
So, but they are a little bit smaller. But because a candidate dropped off on the gubernatorial line, we went from 11 candidates to 12. So the layout, how we were 11 candidates to 10. So we were able to change the layout to make it a 6-column across ballot. What that does is allow the font size to be larger.
Tom, if you get a chance, can I get a copy of a military ballot? I just want to take
Certainly.
one of those as well.
Certainly. Printed or a
Electronic.
We're in the
electronic.
boroughs, everybody's got it.
Everyone's got them?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Our congressional military went out.
Yes.
That's,
Okay.
it's state and local now.
Absentees are out there.
And
Yeah.
they've all received their absentees. They've all cross-checked. I think there was an issue in one of the boroughs. They caught it right away.
Yep.
They got their new ballots today.
Yes.
So we'll
Good.
be meeting the deadline and we're.
And I can send it electronic.
My
as well.
opinion is that they're the most important ballots. Those
Understood.
are the people that are fighting for our freedom, so.
I keep that
You
day.
allow us
And they've
to
been
do
on-
it.
Allow us to do this.
And they've been
My
on the
dad was
website
in the
for a
Navy.
while
I
now.
keep it very close to my heart. I really do.
Yeah, they've been uploaded.
They've been uploaded to the site
Yes, they
for at least 2 weeks now.
Yes, they have.
So there is, all the voters, military and otherwise that vote by mail are all being taken care of.
You don't need a vote from us at all as a subcommittee today, right? That's gonna be done on Tuesday. Okay.
Well, I guess it's, we starting,
No, you
we
need
think
this-
start production,
you
or we're gonna
need
start
a vote
production
from
on
us.
Monday?
I don't know, that's why I'm asking, that's why I asked that question.
I think we,
It was,
Mentioned that he wanted to give all the selection a chance.
Absolutely.
No, but I thought we were voting on one
Something
thing,
has to go
and
out
then,
tomorrow, right?
I
Yeah.
thought
Something
something,
have to go out tomorrow?
we could, I thought, well, the assumption was gonna start Monday on production, but if you want us to, we can hold till Tuesday on production.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, we wanna start with Queens first anyway, so
Yeah.
maybe if the Queens commissioners will approve the Queens, we can then start producing Queens ballot and get it out to the print vendor on Monday, and then the rest of the commissioners can see their ballots on Tuesday, and then we can start doing them.
The only additional thing I wanna see is maybe those.
We can send that to you electronically, we'll do that up and then send it to you electronically later today, and then as long as you're agreeable with that, then we can start producing, on Monday.
What happens if, and I'm just
Okay,
saying,
I don't
I
agree, then
agree,
we'll wait till
what
Tuesday.
happens if they don't agree?
My
So
suggestion.
do you don't agree, then we'll wait till
suggestion-
Tuesday.
I think Mike, today, when we sent out the agenda, Mike is gonna send out a sample to, all the commissioners.
My suggestion, maybe to cover both ends of this, is to build the ballot, to be prepared.
But don't send it to print until
Correct.
Tuesday?
Build it, yeah, that's
Okay,
it,
we can
build
build and
everything
then wait.
there with the arrow
Correct.
You
and
can
all
build
that
and
stuff.
proof and
and
then
then-
wait till.
So on Tuesday, when you're at the meeting,
Bring
Tom
it
will
up
be
the
here
first thing.
with a phone call to you saying, hit the button.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Bring it,
That's correct.
the first thing in the meeting, this is the
That's
first thing
correct.
on the agenda, get it approved so you guys can go on your
Correct,
way.
and the reason for that, the reason that makes the most sense is because if it is to be something like, oh, we want to, and the commissioners do agree, we want to make the proposal on the other side
Might want to put
significantly
your face
larger.
there,
That,
maybe with your hand going out.
I would not suggest that. I would not suggest that.
Encourage voting.
I would not suggest that.
With those
However-
pants.
However, that would affect all of the ballots, including Queens, so that would be the best, that would be the reason to do that. So, what we will
We'll
do.
work together, and we'll get it approved by.
Exactly.
Tuesday.
So we'll share the samples with you, the updated samples with you electronically, have them prepared for Tuesday, and also have the Borough of Queens built in preparation, so if there is an okay with it, press the button.
You can hit the, like this, the gavel, and it will go.
Exactly,
Put the button underneath. and-
Exactly.
Start building all of them?
straight to Rochester.
We'll probably get, we'll
We'll
start, we'll
get
keep,
through one
That's
anyway?
we'll probably get through
That's
Queens,
right.
maybe, we'll probably get
We
Queens
will
and
do as
Kings.
much as we can do. That's a certainty, we're gonna do as much as we can do. It would be ambitious, I think, to have a second borough done by Tuesday's meeting, but if we do, we'll send them both out.
Once you have the green light, when do you think the boroughs will start getting the ballots so they can start the testing?
The test ballots, like the 19-inch ballots do, present some concerns. I do think they'll start getting those test ballots maybe by Friday, Saturday,
Now,
if
just,
we sign off on Tuesday.
I might be jumping ahead. Didn't we have the trouble with the test ballots? They're not marked, or what was that?
Yeah, sometimes they don't come from the vendor marked and our staff have to sit there. Now, I understand that at a certain point, a certain amount of them have to be hand done
That's right.
to replicate what happens on election day.
Right.
But the thought was, let's limit that to a smaller amount as opposed to having them do hundreds and hundreds of them.
Right, I think there was a delay in getting the pre-marked ballots out, so what the boroughs were doing were marking them by hand to get a jump on things, instead of waiting for those pre-marks to get out there. So we're gonna work with the vendor to make sure those pre-marks land, when the rest of the ballots land.
But
Yeah.
land at an increased amount as opposed to what we've done in the past, right? Have more pre-marks?
Well, that's it, the pre-marks didn't, the problem was there was a lag in getting the pre-marks to the borough. So when the borough had test ballots, but not the pre-marked test ballots, they were marking up the ballots so that they can then start testing machines. So what we want to do is make sure that the pre-marks get there when the regular ballot, the rest of the test ballots get there, so there is no situation where they need to then start making those ballots up.
So you're saying-
and scanning.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, are they packaged separately or differently?
It is
So
because
the staff knows that these are pre-marked as opposed to?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, they are,
Absolutely.
And there was one other one.
but there was
and
a
that-
lag in it.
There was one other thing when they were ripping them apart, those, right? Wasn't it
We
Jim?
reduced,
You're
we
right.
reduced the number,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Right, they,
I'm just trying
That
to
went from
remember
50
last
to
year.
25.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
the number of ballots
From
got
50 to
reduced.
Yes.
We also made the stub larger so that there's more to grab onto when you're doing the tearing, so that the,
Right, because
all
that's
the way
where,
to
and
reduce
then
that.
that's when we found
Jim.
out that Queens got theirs late and it was the opposite way.
Right.
Now we're doing it,
Everyone's getting,
That's
it's
correct.
all gonna be done in books of
Right.
25.
It just makes the most sense to do.
right.
Well, they have the most.
Well, no, what happened was last year,
Yeah, the most complexity.
what happened was, which is another way of doing it, let's leave the toughest one for last,
That's
go
right.
with the easy one, get them out because you're behind a gun, get them out, yes.
Yeah, but I think there was an issue with somebody being off and on the.
There was a, I remember there was a court case problem.
Yeah, but it was,
We used
no,
to
but
have
it
to
was,
print the-
right, you printed all the other
Yeah.
ones and then Queens was the last one to be done and
That
it
is
was a different. I know, I remember that.
What are the, on a side note, the stubs for the trilingual language ballots, what are they gonna look like?
They're an
Is
inch and a half.
Spanish, is Korean gonna be really pronounced?
Yes,
Is it
it's
gonna be
in
a different
16-point font, all
That's a good
caps. It's gonna
topic.
say English, Spanish, Korean, or English, Spanish, Bengali, or English, Spanish, Chinese.
And the packaging is gonna be.
And then on the cover of the package, it'll also say the same thing. It'll tell you the languages in large font, so you'll know which package it is that you're ripping from. So even if they rip the cover also in large font, English, Spanish, Korean, or English,
Now,
Spanish,
is that,
Chinese, or
right,
English,
is
Spanish,
that,
Bengali.
so then we have to break it down to each ED, or is that gonna be already?
Well, it's all packaged by the
All,
vendor. He's
it's
gonna-
ought to be all packaged, so
Yeah.
when it comes, it's going right to
Right to
the.
the
That's
ED.
correct.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
That's correct.
Anything else?
Besides that,
Barring that, remember, this is, trilingual will be the first time we're
Right,
doing
the
this.
first time we're doing it, so we
there
gotta be
may, we're not gonna
triple-
say it's all gonna be perfect, but there may be some hiccups along the way between the vendor and us and
Right.
the VMFs, trying this new process, but we're gonna do everything we can to try to prevent that.
As like I said, the problem with this, everything looks good when you write it down.
Yes.
First time you're gonna, but the thing is that we, and make sure you guys contact the boroughs, have phones available,
Yeah.
and answer their calls back and forth, because we're all trying it new, it works here,
Absolutely.
and then,
What person for Queens? And your
I,
side?
I deal with,
No, not on our side. They deal with you two only? Or do you have someone in your department?
no, for myself, yeah.
How about
For
you?
myself, it's me, all the boroughs,
It's always you.
it's me, yeah, and then, I think CRU has, who's in CRU that does, Queens?
Queens was Brian, but I would say to deal with Matt Graves right now.
Yeah, but there shouldn't be an issue with CRU.
No.
no, but what I'm saying is that just make everybody aware, this is, you know, which you all know, that this is something new with the 3 ballots, and there's definitely gonna be something going wrong.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I deal, I have already with the, on the absentee portion of this, dealt with Alba and Nina a bit in the office, and Bobby, and I talk to Raquel and Joe often in the VMF,
Yeah,
and they
the
know
teamwork
that
system.
anytime,
Yep.
that I'm
I mean,
around.
the system
anytime
is
they need
this, there's not gonna be any change as far as having to be language ballot, right? There's-
No, remember, after the mail-away ballots, we can't do a trilingual ballot, you have to give them
Right.
all languages,
Right.
because the voter, we
You
don't
know
know,
who the voter is.
the voter can't ask, in a sense, we don't know who the voter is, so we mail out, it's gonna be a 5-language
On that note,
ballot.
what are we doing about asking the
Yes,
voter
we were
if they
supposed
want a
to.
particular language? I mean, we've had discussions about this, we haven't come up with anything yet. At some point, we have to come in with a plan of how we're gonna start inquiring with the voters. Are we gonna do it on the election day, are we gonna do it when we send a mailing to them? Are we gonna just send a separate mailing in the middle of the beginning of the year? What are we doing?
When
they
they're
ask for
requesting- when they
absentees?
ask for an
I would do
absentee.
when they ask for an absentee.
When they
I
ask for an
guess-
absentee, the permanent ones,
Well,
I-
they weren't
if
gonna
I'm
put
cor-
ballots on demand,
if
that's
I
what
thought- I thought what we discussed was
That's
that
only good for
any
the ones that are
new
looking for
people that
absentee
asked
ballots, right? The
would
election
be
day
asked
ballots,
what
we're not
time.
doing
The permanent ones that are permanently on there, we would send out a thing, which way,
I
right.
I don't know, I'm not aware of any movement on that.
Hmm?
I'm not aware of any movement
No,
on
but
that.
that's what we asked for that, discussions, but like, no, I think the last time we talked was that any new people asking for absentee, it would be on the form, would you like your ballot in this
Wasn't
language?
even a discussion of that
and-
and registrations?
But it was also anybody on the permanent list would be getting a questionnaire.
I don't,
Just for the record, we've been joined by Mike Ryan.
That would be,
I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. I do believe that there are legal complications with both
Requesting.
of those.
well, one thing, at least the state board promulgates those forms, and then we would have to go through the state board to get the absentee, application and the registration forms changed.
Okay, assuming that their form is that, I think the discussion was the work around that is just put an additional mailer or an additional notice of our own with the state board form, so we're not changing anything in their form, we're just inquiring. Well, here's the thing, let's start beginning the process of thinking of how we're gonna implement that, because that will be the simplest thing to do, is trying to figure out who wants these other kinds of ballots.
Why can't our permanent absentee list?
A mailing.
A mailing.
That's why that, a
And they
mailing,
can-
just find out what language they want.
If at
Instead
all.
of
Other-
putting this, because the ballot looks nice now, you know, at least mine, but the ballots, the absentees going out, what size?
Well,
Seven.
remember, the absentees right this year are still on the old teamwork system, and that's limited to a 14-inch ballot. Part of the ballot on demand process that we're going to be putting in place for next year also gives us the ability to do up to 19-inch ballots, because it's an ES&S system. It's basically the same system that produces the election day ballots, so we can go to 19, and then we wouldn't be under the same kind of size constraints as we are now with the 14-inch ballots on the teamwork system.
To speak more about capturing people's,
No, not yet. We're still-
to capture people's languages,
Maybe you want to move to conclude the meeting.
no, I'm finished, okay. To capture people's languages, I would just think that we want more managers, more, you know, it would require multiple departments.
No, absolutely.
Involvement.
Absolutely, and ultimately that'll affect the ballot layout, which is definitely this committee.
Definitely that.
If there's nothing else, then we're just gonna conclude the meeting.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.